Hello, Smart Money 2 podcast listeners. Welcome to this week's show. My name is Kirk Chisholm. I'll be your host, and today I'm joined with Doug Hagren. Hey, Doug.
Happy post Memorial Day. Hope everyone had a good time.
Happy post Memorial Day. Yeah, it was.
I know, although the memorial part probably isn't happy. It's kind of like my Jewish
Yeah,
friends. I say, I'll be like happy Passover. Like it's not really a happy time, but I think of it as time with family. And anytime you connect with families, happy. I know that the general background meaning of both Memorial Day and Passover are not necessarily around happy moments, but may we enjoy the people that are present and remember the ones that are lost. So.
yeah. I feel like it's one of those things you say and you don't think about that you say, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head, but this is definitely one that we don't need to celebrate in that way, but we celebrate in the fact we remember the people that were important. So anyway, so hopefully people enjoyed their extended weekend. I know for pretty much most of May it's been absolutely miserable, and this morning I'm struggling a little bit, but yeah, I mean most of the month has been tough. It's been bad weather, allergies. Although yesterday was beautiful. It was first. Actually, it's beautiful today too. But we're having a string of it here in the Boston area, which is great. Yesterday I was outside all day, biking around, walking. It was great. It was a good day. So needed that off. But like everything else, I went to the extreme and spent most of the day into the late evening playing with AI, which we'll talk a little bit about AI today. Did you raise your hand, Doug? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're feeling what you're feeling, Kirk, and I'm sure other people listening, it is allergy seasons are becoming more severe and longer in the past. In 2025 is, I believe, I heard something like it's the worst pollen in decades for sure. And I mean, I down. So if those of you in Texas probably are familiar with something called cedar fever, but which it just it's flu-like symptoms, and it coats everything. I live in Minnesota. I've never seen it like this, but everything we have outside is literally yellow. It's gotten a little better in the last week or so with some rain that came through, but it's absolutely brutal. So if you're feeling like the allergies are worse this year, they are.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like they say that every year, and I feel like
Yeah, I've never seen it like this though.
what
It's definitely. The pollen is on everything. Like I've never seen it.
what I find interesting is over the years. I mean, growing up, I had allergies. I had bad allergies. Pretty much always had them, but it was pretty much to everything. I didn't have any problem in August though, when ragweed season. I didn't have it in the winter. Some people have it for like mold and other things. I didn't have those, but I just had general overall allergies in the spring. And it was just horrendous. Played baseball, sitting there, my nose is a faucet. It was just awful. Subsequently, I figured out a bunch of stuff that helped me fix it. I figured out instead of being allergic to everything, it was just milk. When I just stopped drinking milk, all of a sudden, all those symptoms went away, which is interesting. And like when I got tested with the skin test, like everything lit up. But milk didn't. Milk didn't light up. Neither did wheat, eggs, shellfish, all that other stuff. But when I stopped drinking milk, all of a sudden it went away. It was interesting. I've been fascinated by all this stuff. We don't have to make this into a health podcast, but I will say that over the years, I've tried to reduce the histamine foods. So what I also found is when you're having histamine foods, things like spinach, which you wouldn't think is a histamine food, that made things worse. So last year I stopped having histamine foods and most of my allergies went away. The ones that stuck this year, my eyes, like just my eyes are constantly itchy and dry. Had some sneezing in the beginning, but that's mostly went away. But what I found over the years is like 4 weeks. 4 weeks, whenever they start, it's 4 weeks, then they're done. So this weekend, I was outside all day, no problems. My eyes still are a little dry, but no breathing problems, no sinus problems. So I think I'm through the thick of it, which is good. But yeah, anyway, go ahead, Doug.
I'm gonna leave it on this since you talked about histamines, and then we'll move on. But I've noticed everybody loves sourdough. Sourdough's all the rage, especially since COVID, because a lot of people started baking, and baking it for themselves. And even my sister and brother-in-law, they started a batch, and now it's like they give out sourdough to everybody. Every time I eat sourdough, especially like a heavy sourdough, I feel nauseous, and I couldn't figure out why. Everybody loves it. It's like, why do I just feel like crap after this? Turns out sourdough is high in histamines. I feel kind of, and the same thing happens with like hoppy beers. So I feel like what you're talking about. Like, I don't know about spinach. I love spinach. I haven't really felt anything after that. I'm going to think about it. But yeah, I can't eat sourdough, Kirk, because of the histamines. I mean, I guess that nausea is a normal reaction of histamines from sour items. Go figure. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, actually, there's a bunch of other foods too. Alcoholic beverages, cured meat.
Right here.
Um,
Yep. Yep. Too much
uh,
cured meat. I feel awful. I feel off.
yep. You've got cheese,
Mm-hmm. Thought I feel the night.
bananas. Actually, bananas I found interesting. Like if I have bananas in like sometime in February for like there's like a week. If I have a banana, I will nonstop sneeze for like 5 minutes. Can't just stop sneezing. But it's only like that week. And it's only bananas. It's the weirdest thing. Orange juice does the same thing for like a week in the winter. It's weird. Tomatoes, eggplant, spinach. You've got things like sauerkraut, certain sauces, um, certain basically what do they call? Oh, leftovers. Leftovers is another one. Things have been in the fridge for a while, so there's actually a bunch of them. I mean, I'm not
Fermentation.
going to go into all of them, but yeah, there's.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things you have to really look up the list and say, all right, we're just going to remove all of this stuff because it's not doing us any good. So anyway, moving on. All right, so we're going to talk about a few things this week, and one of the things that I'm really excited to start talking about is AI, the implications, what it can do, and it's one of those things that I expect that we will add into this show probably for the next few months, and the reason being is I'm going down the rabbit hole. When it came out, when ChatGPT came out in, I think it was November of 2023, people started to get excited because it was more consumer facing, even though it was kind of being used in other places, but really it was public facing then, and kids started using it for tests to like write papers and all that stuff. But it's come a long way since then, and I know when I initially tried it, I actually wrote a lot of LinkedIn posts about it and what it could and couldn't do. And the changes it's had have been drastic, because when we initially started to use it, I realized the limitations. It was about like the 80-20 rule. It was 80% there, but the 20%, it just wasn't quite there. You couldn't use it for stuff. It was more like a toy at that point than anything meaningful. And I know because I had it write some blog posts for me, and I looked at them and I was like, this looks like a college textbook. Like, I had it write one about inflation. I was like, this is a very solid college textbook article about inflation. Like, there wasn't anything wrong with it, but it was just sterile.
There's no nuance. No, it's boring. It was
Yeah, it
totally
was boring.
academic. Yep.
Yeah, it was academic. It was sterile. It had no stories, no emotion. It was just fundamentally sound, but no one would ever want to read it. So I looked at it and I was like, all right, this is interesting, but I have no interest in this doing my work for me because it's just not that good. And then I found out some other limitations. And one of the ones I found, which is I would find is actually that if they talk about the Turing test of whether it's, sentient and all this stuff. I think the Turing test is if you can have it understand humor. So humor is the one thing that AI is not great at. It can repeat. It can it can basically pull stuff from the internet and replicate it. But initially, I had to do humor. It failed. Had no idea how to do humor, especially riddles. But definitely humor it was not great at. And you could try different humors. It just wasn't good. And then somewhat recently, maybe like 6 months ago, I had to do it again. And it was better, but it kept pulling stuff from the internet. So if I asked it, I said, give me another one, give me another one. And after about like 5 tries, it started to fall apart. It started to repeat the old ones. It started to make stuff up that was terrible. And so it to me, it just was, I'm pulling this from the internet somewhere and just, regurgitating it for you.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it recently, but I've been using it for other things, and wow, it's amazing.
I can tell you this, Kirk, personal experience. And again, I didn't look 6 months ago, but maybe 2, 3. I was telling you about this. It's incredible what it's starting to get sarcasm. And it's starting to get sarcasm at a really effective and I would argue hilarious way.
Because I'm laying on pretty thick, Doug.
What'd you say?
Because I'm laying it on pretty thick.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm typing into ChatGPT right now, and it's just, oh, but this guy. No, but my son and I were actually traveling the airport. We started to kind of we were playing around with it, started joking around about people sitting in in the back and putting their seat backs back and kind of just being rude on an airplane. And it's unbelievable, like the level of creation that it created. A story, it created a national anthem for like an empire, and listen, I'm not getting into all of it right now, but we were in tears. It was actually incredibly nuanced, the level of sarcasm it was able, which once it starts getting the ability to have nuance and sarcasm, that's when it will get incredibly difficult to differentiate between AI and real humans. That has been the one sticking point, I think, for a long time and now, even now with ChatGPT, you can still see when it publishes something, it throws in these stupid little images and these long hyphens. People can read a ChatGPT and tell it is. You have to go back and edit that, but it's getting closer. And once it gets to that point where it's writing like a human and it has that nuance in there and that sarcasm, it's going to be really difficult. And it's already getting there.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating change so far, and I think of it as it's a blunt tool that's getting sharper over time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Initially, it was a blunt tool. It was interesting. People started to use it, and you could tell, like, it was just awful. Now it's getting harder to tell the output. But I think the biggest challenge I've had is, and I was thinking about this about 6 months ago, because I asked a friend of mine he works at a VC firm, and he was investing in one of the companies that people are using for AI right now. I won't name it, but it's one of the companies. And I was like, so, what do you think? And he's like, the hardest thing right now, and this is 6 months ago. Yeah, 6 months ago. He's like coming up with use cases. And because I was like, wow, you got this cool tool. What do you do with it? He's like, I don't know. You got to figure that out. I was like, really? And I sat down. It was really hard. I was thinking, like, what are the use cases? So I started Googling, or, that word's going to go to the wayside. But, I started Googling. I started going on YouTube. I started looking around. And you get some ideas, but most of it's like superficial fluff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I can have it, mark my email, or I could have it take notes in my meeting. Like, that's like a nice to have. It's not a need to have. It's not changing my life. It's kind of like, if I'm going to do all this cool stuff, is it going to change my life? If it doesn't, what the hell am I doing? Yeah. Now, I've seen a lot of people, they're doing cool and interesting things. They're using AI to code and create apps and all that stuff. That's great. I'm not a coder, but I mean, for everyday people who are not, and let me use another frame here. AI is also at this place where, if you think about like the knowledge set of people, right? There's like Joe Sixpack, who knows nothing about technology. They probably hit Google once in a while if they're confused, but they're really not technologically based, right? They're just an average person who uses, the internet for all the things that most people use it for, porn, watching the game, Netflix, whatever. Like, there's like some basic level of understanding of technology, right? Then there's kind of like a step up, people who are a little bit more advanced. And then you get all these people at the top who are like, deep coders who are geeking out and know all the tricks and the hidden Easter eggs in the internet. Like, you got this wide range of people, right? And the people at the top, those are the people who are actually making AI, like the people who really geek out on this stuff. Like, they've come up with some really crazy stuff, but it's not something that Doug and I could come up with, because that's not our skill set, right? I'm not a coder. I know how to code. I just have no interest in it. in my youth, I was coding and learned all this stuff. I have no interest in it, but I understand the concepts. So but somebody like me, even I'm just looking at like, what do I do with this stuff? So I think it kind of falls in the range of adoption, right? So when things first come out, if you think of any new technology, video games, it was basically like computer geeks, like the hobbyists. Not even the computer geeks. These are like hobbyists, not even kids. These are like computer geeks, like early on that like made their own computers, right? When computers weren't a thing, because you had to make them. That's like early end of the curve. That's like people who invested in crypto in 2012, right? Those people, right, that are on the edge of the curve when it comes to anything new. Those people are
early adopters,
very, very early adopters, right? That's like before 2023. Those are the people who were using AI before it was a thing. And then you've got like when retail starts to play around with it. That's when computer games came out with like Pong, Atari. It was very early on where it was when I was younger. I was a little geek when it came out like that. And most of the kids in my class are like, what are you gaming? You're a dork. Like most kids didn't game back then. Now everyone games. Or like the internet, when people were on the internet, like I remember early on, I don't know if you remember war games. When you had the phone, you put it into the handle to get into the modem. Like I never used that, but I remember that, like when you heard the sound, that's when you know you're connected. I was a part of the tail end of that. I remember when I went to college, that was a thing I did one summer. It was kind of cool. But then it changed. That went away. Or like crypto was, I would say maybe when they came out with the closed end fund, the Grayscale closed end fund was like the first way that anyone could invest without like having a paper wallet and all the other stuff that was going on. So there's like these levels of adoption, and if you look at AI, I think when it was retail fit into that piece when people first started to be widely adopted, right? So AI now I would kind of put at the stage of it's not quite at the hey, we're having a crypto ETF go out, which is what happened earlier this year. It's not at that stage, or it's not at the 1999 stage where everyone's doing it. I think we're at the stage where a lot of people are doing it, but not everybody's doing it. So here's the stage where I would see where that hits. If you think about Google, okay, 94% of all internet search is Google, right? I think Bing has like 4% and the rest is some other providers. But effectively, it's almost all Google, okay? They've monopolized search. Now, Google's having a legal trial to separate search from their browser. But what's also happening at the same time, which is interesting when you think about, the game, right, that goes on between government and big business, is while that's going on, at the same time, Google search is going to disappear. And so is Bing and pretty much all search. And here's why. Last summer, I started to use ChatGPT to help me solve medical problems for my son. I've talked about it in the show. I'm not going to get the details. It's not serious, but it's serious enough where we were concerned. And the doctors had no idea. We've subsequently figured it out, but like at the time, like nobody had any idea. And doctors were not really equipped to solve the problem because it was one of those not super serious, but serious enough where it wasn't normal and we were concerned, but anyway, so I dumped all of his lab tests into ChatGPT plus his symptoms, and it gave me a result that was really close to correct, like shockingly good, better than any of the doctor's recommendations. And I'm not saying doctors are useless because doctors are really important, but for this, the doctors were useless, okay, because they couldn't solve my problem. So when I think about that, and I think about what I was trying to do, I was trying to discover what was going on. What is this? What is this? Well, think of any new thing that you're trying to learn. You like, all right, infrared saunas. That's something I'm interested in. I have a friend of mine that has one, swears by it. He also got me. He also got me into the chili pad, which my wife finally last night said, "Thank you for introducing us to the chili pad." Because my friend told me, he's like, it changed my life, especially with my wife, because her life's better, so my life's better, kind of a thing. My wife finally thanked me because she wouldn't do it for the longest time. She's like, I'm not trying that. And when we did, now it's changed both of our lives. I love it too. It's not just her, but anyway, so my friend introduced me to that, so I thank him for that. He also introduced me to the infrared sauna, which I'm starting to go down the rabbit hole. Now, if I'm trying to learn about this, what do? Well, normally in the old days, I would go to Google. Hey, Mr. Google, what should I do? Tell me about infrared saunas. And I would research this for 6 hours. Look up a bunch of articles, a bunch of influence. What are they saying? What should I look for, not look for? All the research. It might take me 6 hours. Well, a month ago, I was at my son's lacrosse game just watching. He wasn't playing, but I was just sitting there watching. And so I'm sitting there I was like, you know what? Let me go on ChatGPT. So I go on ChatGPT, say, tell me about infrared saunas. And I start doing some research. And it took me 15 minutes to both ask questions and read them. And now I feel like I've got 80% of the knowledge in infrared saunas. And within 15 minutes. Really? That just saved me a ton of time. Why would I ever use Google ever again? Seriously. Ever. Now, there's only one reason I would use Google, and I could probably also use ChatGPT, but I just habit. Is if I'm looking up a specific company and I want their company URL, then I will go to Google and.
But who goes there anymore?
What?
Who goes to anybody's website anymore?
Well, I mean, if you're looking up something specific, yes.
I'm kidding. That's
that's also getting to that. So if you think about it, so I go to Google and I look up a company website. Okay, the company website is good because it's basically my brochure. Remember brochures, Doug? That was a thing in our industry. It was yeah, have a trifold, a brochure. It's all about your company.
Vaguely, yes. There's some places that still push those.
Yeah, some people still ask me those, and I'm just like, have you heard of the internet? Anyway. So basically my point is everything I do, I just go to Google, right? But now I just use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever all the other ones are. Grok. I don't particularly like Grok. I have tried it. It's okay, but
they brag about it, but it hasn't lived up to.
I know. It hasn't. Yeah. I mean, Elon talks about it all the time, and he's a good promoter, but I just think it's kind of subpar. It's kind of it's like the redheaded stepchild. It's just yeah, you're around, but I'm not going to get any attention. So, but I think if you look at ChatGPT, it gets the vast majority of attention. I think second best, which is a far difference, is Claude. But Gemini is not even on. It's really far down from that. But if you think about it, why would you ever use Google ever again? Even Google, their first search result is an AI result. So all those people who built up web pages and blog posts and this and that and the other thing, you're never going to get seen. Where are people going? To the Google AI result, which is Gemini. That's what they're giving you now for a Google result. So why not just use AI? Why bother using Google? And the point is, Google's business model is going to completely change. Because if you're not going to search, all that search revenue is going away. Because why do they get search revenue? Ads. They put ads in your face. Well, you can't see the ads anymore because you're not going past the AI result. So their ad revenue is going to dry up. Now, I haven't seen what they're showing on their reports yet, but I know this to be true because I know that they're coming out with another solution as a way to generate additional revenue for that. And that is lead gen. And if you haven't seen this, it's in the beta test mode. So it's just not in all cities. I think it's called Google Locals or something like that, local business. Anyway, so you can go buy, if you're a business, you can go buy leads. And they're not that expensive. And that will be the next gen. So I don't have to do an ad. I just say, hey, Google, set me up with some meetings. And it costs whatever, $20 to $150, somewhere in that range. And it'll set me up with meetings. That's worth it for a business, right? It's better than doing ads. Why I have to learn this? Google has all my information. They have more information than anyone else. Apple, Facebook, they got great information on me. So great targeted leads.
Hey, Kirk, is it
Yep.
called local services ads? Is that what you're talking about? Reach local, I think that's what
It's
I'm
got a
saying.
weird name that
Yeah.
you can't remember, and honestly, I tried to remember it. I can't. If you just look up like local for business, anyway, it's still beta test and it's really hard to find. Google's not advertising it right now. But I will tell you that it does exist, and I'll find it for another thing in the show here because it's just it's where things are going for Google. So I'm sure they'll be able to replace their ad revenue, but for now, it's just it's going to change the dynamic of search, and the point being, it's going to change everything. So when we think about the adoption rate, we're still not at the place where I can say, "Hey, ChatGPT, go solve my problem for me," which is where I think people hope. We're at a place where you can solve a lot of challenges through AI, but you have to understand how to use it. So this is the stage where it's like, hey, I can go, it can solve my basic problems and give me like a really crappy result. Um, but if I do it right, it gives me shockingly good results. So I'll say this and I'll move on and give Doug some time because we started a little late. Um, One of the things that I did, so yesterday I spent the greater part of yesterday messing around with not with ChatGPT, with Claude, and I had it start to do my business um, planning from like a high level. And what I had to do, so years ago, I had this book Traction. If you guys have never read it, if you're into business, this is like the Bible on your setting up a business correctly. People told me about it for years, didn't try it. When I finally did, I'm like, holy crap, what did I miss? Anyway, so I did all this work, and there's this phrase I always tell people: the process is the goal. Now, what that means is the process of doing a business plan is the purpose of the business plan. It's not the result. Most people think it's the result. It's not the result. It's the process you go through to create the result that gives you what you need, because it forces you to go through and do the hard work and think through all the different implications of what's going to happen here and what's going to happen, not just throw numbers at a page to wow people, but to actually go through the process of thinking and understanding, how did I get to this result? Oh, well, I made this mistake, and you fix it all in your head before you go out to market. Same thing with what I did with Traction is I sat down and I thought through. It's not a business plan, but it's more of like a mental. It's more like a framework of how to operate your business. So when I went through that, I learned a ton about my business that I didn't think about before, and it's helped me dramatically improve a lot of aspects. So anyway, so I went through that mentally. It was great. When I started to go through yesterday with, I was using Claude for this, and I built a similar framework through Claude, and it basically, I gave it a framework. It asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered them for it, and it built me basically a document that I could use and feed to AI in the future and know everything that it needs to know about me to answer my questions about my business. It's like, I know ChatGPT has memories, Claude has artifacts. Like there's each one has their own thing, but it's basically like captured memory of what it needs to know to answer my questions accurately about my business. And I spent the greater part of yesterday doing that. It is so effing good. Um, I asked it to give me a result after I had it build this out, and it was like, holy crap, that's good. I was shocked. Now, it took me some time to build out, and I'm actually taking a workshop over June, which will take me, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. And it's basically helping business owners to build this out. And my biggest challenge is still use cases. Like I need to sit down. I've found a bunch, but like I need to really sit down and build out. And it's my opinion that for anyone who's looking to start a business, anyone who's a business owner, this is a pivotal moment where you can be so far ahead of the curve. If you can't make money, you're probably an invalid. I think it's okay to say retarded now, right, Doug? I think that's socially acceptable now.
Officially, since January of this year, the word
Yeah,
retarded is now okay.
I think Joe Rogan said
It's
it's okay.
back in the English
So it's
language as
okay.
everyday
Yeah.
use.
I think you're definitely retarded because it's so far ahead of the curve that I've seen I've seen stories like online of people doing crazy stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is like such a good opportunity. And at the same time, people are complaining that they don't have enough money to survive. Like this is a time you could become a millionaire. I've heard stories of like kids, 18-year-old kids building apps with $20 million revenues because they're in high school and they just use AI to create like apps, like crazy stuff like that. Point being is this stuff is all possible now. It's hard because you have to understand the framework of how to use it. But if you do, it is so easy to use. It just requires a little time. And I'll tell you, if you're not playing around with this, if you're not getting good at it, you are putting yourself at a significant disadvantage because the next level is not AI taking over your job. It's people who know how to use AI taking over your job. Now, eventually it will be AI taking over your job, but the first one will be people who know how to use it. And most people don't. So if you have not started to play with it, dive down the rabbit hole. I know it's a long rabbit hole, but it's worth it. Is inflation getting you down? Do you feel like your money is worth less every time you open your wallet? Is shrinkflation frustrating you at the grocery store? Well, I have an answer for you. We're giving away free money. That's right, I said it, free money. I feel like I'm not doing my part to create inflation. Why does the government get to have all the fun? What could be better at increasing inflation than giving away free money? No, I'm not an employee of the Federal Reserve. And no, I'm not an employee of the US government either. And no, I am definitely not printing it myself. But it's free. What more could you ask? Well, you might ask, is it real? Well, yes, it's totally real. I'm holding it in my hands right here, see? Oh, wait, this is a podcast. You can't see it. Either way, I'm holding it in my hands right now, and I want to give it to you. If you want some free money, go to moneytreepodcast.com/free money to get your free money today. Follow the instructions and I'll send some to you. Enjoy your free money today. I'm not the Federal Reserve, so I only have a limited supply. This offer is good until I run out. Go to www.moneytreepodcast.com/free money to get your free money today. So I don't know. We'll get into some more, but what are your thoughts, Doug? Are you using it AI, or is it part of your life yet, or what do you think?
Oh, incredible. And here's the thing. Now, I will admit I'm not as familiar with Claude. I'm actually going to start looking into that based on just this conversation right here. See, everybody listening, we learn stuff from each other on this too. But here, I use a lot of OpenAI, a lot of ChatGPT. And here's where I have found an incredible value to it. The one thing that ChatGPT does, and this is where Grok doesn't do it well, Gemini still has yet to be determined, is ChatGPT actually learns, and it actually remembers. And what ChatGPT is able to do is it is able to learn your personality, learn your style, learn what you want. It's also what you can do is I can take, you talked about traction. I can take that book, for example, or things by Cialdini and other individuals that I follow, and I can actually take their language and I can build models in it that follow and pull from everything that they have done. So I can actually take things that I've followed, videos, people I've listened to, TED Talks, things like that, transcribe them, bring them in there. And then what it'll do is it will actually begin to model advice to me around things that I want, pulling from the way that those experts would have created it. And that, it allows me to have a personal coach that is as professional as them sitting in the room. And it does, it takes nuance over time. But I've been able to craft an incredible amount of really thoughtful responses on things. I'm able to look up things faster. You talk about Google. For example, if I'm looking, I'm going and this is more on the personal side. We're going to be going to Alaska here in a couple of weeks. And my wife is already, and this is probably like many of you, somebody in your family is probably a little more anxious and more detailed than others. And she's sitting there like, what do I bring? And what do we do? And I've got these excursions and things like that. And look, I went in there and said, here's the situation. I got a son who would rather just be home. He's kind of introverted. I got a daughter, she gets worn down. She breaks down. Here's the scenario. And I said, I need to know What excursion should we do? What should we be doing? Where should we be going? What would be the perfect thing? What are the best foods? What are the restaurants? Da, da, da. Boom. I have an entire agenda that has been brought out for me on what to do and what to see and local hikes and all this stuff through AI. I couldn't do that through Google. Like, that's not happening. Like, it literally, and what I've found, and this is the tip, the more detail that you give it, you have to be very clear. I am looking for this, this, this. I don't like this, this, this. I want this. How would this person respond to it? And the responses to that continue to get deeper and better. You talk about business planning. I've been able to run scenarios. I can actually put numbers in there and say, run this analysis. I can actually put in, say things like, do me a favor, run correlations on this. Give me data that, that shows me whether or not this is correlated and causative or just correlated. An amazing amount, but you have to be very clear in what you ask. And I will say that it makes sense. This is where we have the paid version. It runs, again, I can use it a lot more. I can go deeper because you run out of, usage on the free version. But even on that level, the quality that it's able to create. I mean, heck, I came up with my own cocktail this weekend. And I had some ideas for it. I said, how do these things balance together? And it was coming back to me like, do this. Yep, that's great. Unbelievable. Best drink I've ever had. Seriously. It is. So it really is something that takes time. It's really something you have to be very clear on. You need to expect, you need to set the parameters that you want with it. But the things that it can run for you, the things that it can come back to, and it also has a deep seek function that, you can go a lot deeper on the internet. It's transformative. And I'll go back to what you said. If you're not using it, there's a saying that keeps going around. It won't replace you, but the people that don't know how to use it, they will be replaced. It is critical that you begin to look at this in your life in a way that goes beyond just using it as a search engine, but goes into a level of basically being your team. I think that's the best part from a business standpoint or a human standpoint or a family standpoint. It effectively can replace a lot of the functions of a team with incredible, and I've used this word before, with high nuance around what you're looking for when you work to train it around the way you think.
Speaking of replacing you, here's an example of something
Last day on the show. Oh, I thought I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's
What do you mean?
He's
we're real,
AI
Doug.
from now on.
We're real. How do you know? Speaking of being replaced, both Klarna and Zoom's CEO, so Zoom CEO Eric Yuan and Juan, and then Klarna's CEO Al. I'm not going to try to just say his last name. Anyway, they started their earnings call with an AI avatar version of themselves, ultra realistic digital clone who looks like Juan, talks like him, maybe even thinks like him.
Yep.
And he had the AI speak for him. And same thing with Klarna, did the same thing. He did portions of the company's quarterly earnings report. Now, think about this for a moment. I didn't see it, so I don't know how high quality it was, how believable it was. But imagine for a moment that you're a public CEO and you can create this AI clone, this avatar of yourself that you teach everything. I mean, think about it like somebody like Joe Rogan, for example. Actually, he's probably a bad example because he does interviews and he talks less. But if you look at somebody who does like solo podcasts,
auto podcasting.
Yeah, like somebody who does a solo podcast, they don't have guests, right? And they're just talking. You take that person and you take all of their podcasts, like hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, and you dump it into AI and say, make an avatar of me based on everything I've said. And it could probably do a good job of that, right? Now you have an avatar. So you have a public CEO, take all my public stuff, writings, video, audio, dump it all into AI and create an avatar of me. And now pretend you're me, right? And that is not far off. I think we're kind of on the cusp of that now. People are playing around with it. It's not 100% believable. Like you can tell it's still AI, but we're getting close. Audio, we're there, but video, it's not. It's still a little weird. But imagine that for a moment, that I could just say, I don't want to do the earnings call today. I'm going to the beach. Just have AI do it. And it can answer your questions because it's got all the information. It asks you a stupid, an analyst asks you a stupid question, and you could give it an attitude. That's a stupid question. Next. Like you could have it say whatever. And at the same time, are people going to really know? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, well, you said something last week, and since we're talking about, and I was going to talk about that avatar for the CEOs today, so I'm glad you brought that up. You said something last week, which I thought was important. I didn't get to it last week, but I want to say it now. And that is, talking to AI. So there are some tools out there that are getting more popular in use. For example, like being able to call customer service, appointment setting, things like that. And this is a business thing. They have found, there's a lot of studies that show that if someone, let's say you've got leads, or you've done a seminar or webinar, and you've met people and they've said they want information, and if they book with you, or they've requested this information, there are studies that show that the most effective way to actually have that conversation and get somewhere is to be able to respond to them within like 5 minutes. The problem with that is it's almost impossible unless you have a team that can literally monitor those things and just be on the phone. If you're a solo practitioner or at least a lean shop, you're going to have to, you're going to probably be in meetings. You're going to be doing other things. You can't say, oh, lead came in, pick up the phone. The other thing is, especially in the world of digital, a lot of people these days are clicking on that stuff at 11 p.m. at night or 1 a.m. in the morning. Like that's when they're going through this, and there's no way you can call them back. But guess what? Digital AI responders can, and they can do it immediately. But here's what they found in studies is that people are very suspicious of AI. They don't want to talk to AI, right? But that is not the case if the AI was honest. What people don't appreciate is they don't like to be tricked. We don't like to be tricked. Gen X, we don't like to be tricked. We're suspicious anyway, right, Kurt?
Yeah, we
right?
don't want any help.
We don't want any help. I mean, we don't even want to be asked. We're sitting there walking down the hardware store. Can I help you? No. If I wanted help, I'd come grab you. Right now, I'm good. Leave me be, right? It's latchkey. The reality is that they're finding is that if the AI says, hey, I'm Jim, I'm the AI scheduling assistant for Douglas Hagen or for Mergent Group or for Innovative Wealth, that they've actually found that people respond to that. As long as it was honest as, hey, look, I'm not real. Can't really answer a bunch of questions for you. Don't go down the rabbit hole of theory. But look, I'm calling you because you had some information. What did you want to talk about? We can set it up. We'll put that in. What time would you want to meet? Let's get you scheduled. People are actually reacting incredibly well, way better than they have expected humans to do, as long as it was clear going into it. Look, I'm not talking to human, but what people cannot stand is trickery. And so if you call in, if you AI or and this is going to be a real problem, earnings calls, I've already thought of something, I know some people that for some major Fortune 500 companies, they're basically PR, right? The worst job about PR is your job really only comes into matter when things are going wrong. Like, if, for a telecom company, weather events, things like that come through, and all the company is just down across the country. That's where the PR person has to answer all the questions. And it's an absolute nightmare, right? But guess what? That would be an incredible opportunity to have an AI PR person because they can field all of that. And you know what? There's no emotion. Boom, 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 boom. Very factual. Whereas a human, and we've seen this even with like the presidential press secretary, it takes an incredible amount of skill to manage the emotions of that room. And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, we've had the people that have been in that role, whether you like them or not, they do an amazing job because none of you have stood in front of that war room of those journalists, just bam, 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 and trying to trip you up because a lot of them are agenda based. But man, you step back and do that with AI. Now it's going to be hard to do for the presidency, but for PR, like, earnings calls, things like that. Yep. This is the AI. We're just putting the report out there. Good luck asking a bunch of questions. We're just going to give you facts. We've got basic answers, no emotion, moving on. I can absolutely see that implementation happening sooner than later.
Yeah, it's we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep diving into this because there's a whole what I want to talk about maybe next week is the crisis of identity, and I think um, one of the challenges with AI, and I won't get into all the bullet points I have here, is that a lot of things are going to change. I was actually just listening to a debate between certain voices in the AI community that are either knowledgeable or in the weeds with it, and there's definitely a big debate going on about AI, mostly about AGI, whether we should. Of course, it's too late because we've opened Pandora's box, so it's too late to put it back in. But and it kind of gets into this. Well, we can't stop. Like it's Pandora's box is open. You can't put it back in. You can't stop other countries from pursuing it. So we're there. Somebody likened it akin to when gunpowder was created, or when the internet was created, or when nuclear weapons were created. Like all these different things, you're just like, well, I hope it goes okay. Like you can't undo that. You can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. And I think we're at that point where AI, where I hope that it doesn't destroy everything. I have faith that it won't, but because otherwise it's not going to matter. But I think at this point, there's still a lot of debate going on, and I think the thing that scares me most is the crisis of identity. Like, who are we if we don't have to work? Like, if I get an AI to do my job, like, what am I going to do? Like it gets into these places of weirdness where it's a paradigm change from what we're used to this new place. When the new place is really scary. So what I'm going to be doing over the next few months is going down the rabbit hole to figure out, to think about and share with the listeners everything I'm learning in a broad level. I mean, not going through all the specifics, but I think the thinking, the philosophy, and the understanding, because this will have wide implications for your investments. It'll have wide implications for your job. Pretty much anything that relates to personal finance, it will impact. So we're gonna discuss that on top of all the other crazy stuff that's going on. And I'm just gonna mention this one thing, and then I'll give it to Doug to wrap up because we got coming up to time. As I was talking to a friend of mine who's a dentist, and he just told me last night. He said that Massachusetts has stopped accepting Medicaid, Mass Health funding, Medicaid and Mass Health is no longer paying dentists in Massachusetts. They have not been paid since March. I don't know why dentists. He didn't explain why, but he just told me that was going on. He said it's going to be a big news story hitting soon. I don't know if this impacts other states. But I saw a small news article that claimed that, well, it's because of the budget and because they're cutting costs, and like, really, I don't know. Did they cut Medicaid? I don't remember them cutting that. But anyway,
Supposedly in the bill, going to cut what's going to the states. I haven't looked through it to see if that actually was built in the final, but yeah,
but it hasn't been cut yet, and yet they're not paying people. So to me, it seems like it's a little bit of politics being played with people's payments as a way to influence people's behavior, this is the thing I hate about politics, is they take it against the people and be like, oh, they cut this. I'm like, well, I haven't cut it yet, assuming they do. But anyway, the point being is it's a mess. A lot of people are going to be impacted. Seems like they are already, especially dentists who are not getting paid, which seems kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so I don't know if that's breaking news, but it certainly was to me. Anyway, Doug, why don't you wrap us up here?
Yeah, so next week, Kirk, we didn't get into today, but there is some new data out about the starting of collections on student loans, and it is already having a significant impact on it. This is a real deal, and I think they're really coming after people who are struggling financially to pay these loans, and unfortunately, those that are struggling to pay those loans are, it's everyday people. It's not just lower incomes. It is higher incomes. And, the thing that happens with higher income and affluent families is they have high expectations. They have high standards. And not that saying that everybody else doesn't, but what happens is that competitiveness tends to mean that they look at a lot of competitive and often higher priced schools. So that, what that results in is an incredible amount of cost that goes into paying for colleges to put your child to an elite institution. And that means that for even the affluent families, you could be looking at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. These college costs continue to rise. Private institutions are averaging $222,000 for a 4-year degree, with elite schools over $300,000. These policy changes resumed on federal student loan collections. They ended a 5-year pause. This led to a surge in delinquencies, again, at all income and wealth levels. Millions of borrowers are experiencing significant credit score drops. At Mergent College Advisors, we help families navigate these challenges by developing strategies to minimize these college expenses up front and put a plan in place that helps protect long-term financial goals. Our approach includes optimizing financial aid positioning, leveraging tax-efficient funding methods, and ensuring that colleges don't cost so much that they derail your retirement estate plans. So if you're looking to put your child through an elite institution with the return on that investment, an extraordinary future, and you want to fund higher education without compromising your financial future, visit mergentcollegeadvisors.com, MERGENT, mergentcollegeadvisors.com, or email us. You can email us at admin@mergentgroup.net. And again, that's MERGENT. Because here's the thing, smart money doesn't guess, it plans.
Great. Well, appreciate you having you on the show today, Doug, and thank you all for joining us. That's the show for this week. Thank you again for joining us on Money Tree Investing Podcast. My name's Kirk Chisholm, Wealth Manager of Innovative Advisor Group. We don't just manage your wealth, we make your life better. You can find more about me at innovativewealth.com, and of course, you can find me every week here on this show. You can also check out our show at Money Tree Investing Podcast. On our website, you'll have access to the show notes, resources, and the archive shows. Please remember to subscribe on our YouTube channel for immediate access to the new shows when they're released. When you subscribe to the show, it allows us to get access to some of the top minds of investing in personal finance. While you're here, please leave a comment and question if you want us to address it on the show. Have a great week ahead, and remember, no one will care about your money like you do, so invest in your life.